Hey legends, so today I'm going to do something a little bit different with you guys. I don't know why I'm speaking so loud, microphone's right here, but a few of you, by a few I mean like maybe 20, thank you guys very much, from my Instagram story jumped across and said, yeah, Ben, I've seen you done this 64 paint correction, to an extent yesterday. Well actually it's not going to matter what day it was because this is going to be on YouTube forever. So anyway, in the past I had done half the car, which I'll put in through this and a few other snapshots of it. 50% done. Now, for you guys who don't know, I used to own a professional detailing company. Now it's been a few years out of the loop for me now, probably just over 2. Not much has changed, but obviously there's a fair bit that is new. So for the guys out there that are professionals in the current market, look, don't hate me, this is just a detailing 101 Rotary run through for the everyday detailer. There's going to be a few bits and pieces in here that, you know, I'm going to say don't give a crack unless you're fully willing and okay with being on the charred end of it. But for the most of it, it's all just basic rotary skills. And this, oddly enough, probably shouldn't be the first episode of this series. Normally I probably should have started with a wash, how to dig. Do you know what? Doesn't matter, because this is what I got. And for the guys who are going to hate me out there, I'm not even going to decontaminate this car. I'm not going to clay bar it. I'm not going to wash it. Prep. All right, guys, into the nitty gritty. Alright guys, as you can see, the paint on the left hand side of the sponner closest to me, which is what we're going to learn on today, it is peppered. It's oxidized, it's got tape marks on it, it's got deep cuts, swirls, it's got a whole lot of stuff going on over here. The other side I showed you, now that's not perfect by any means, but you've got to remember that I'm not chasing perfection on this one, not a customer car, and if I'm going to go through a correction on this car, it'll probably take me a few days, but it's a lowrider. It's not going to be perfect, and yeah. So let's get into your pad selection. All right, so pad selection. Now, for the guys at home, you're probably going to hate me because I haven't got much of a selection here, but I am talking about a Rotary. The Rotary's primary use is cut. Now, gone are the days where you'll see a panel shop. Well, hopefully gone are the days you'll see panel shops, detailers, like dealership, backyard, just using a Rotary. Yes, it can be done. Are you going to get the most out of your paint in terms of shine, depth, clarity, and I guess overall finish and prep work for a coating, wax or whatever? Definitely not. Now, I've got a few of my favorites here. I bounce between optics pads, from the guys in Auto FX WA. Des and the team over there, wealth of knowledge. And I bounce between Geon pads. I like Geon pads for different reasons. But let's start with the heaviest of the heavy, the wool pad. Now, the wool pad, normally I say when you're trying to identify a pad when you're coming into it, you kind of go by feel. Right? If you don't have it, if they're not labeled, if you've bought a backyard John Joe, Lewis, whatever kit online. They're not always like labeled soft, medium, hard cut, heavy cut, you know, or like, you know, designed for Rotary. They don't give you how to use these. You've got to go by, a lot of the time, feel, if you don't know, or especially if they're not labeled. So that's pretty much what we're going for here. The only one that's going to lie to you is the wool pad, right? The wool pad is a high heat, high cut, very easy to ruin, or I wouldn't say ruin, it's very hard to ruin paint if you don't know what you're doing and if you don't know what kind of paint you're working with. I wouldn't use a wool pad on Ford black, Honda black, Nissan black, what else? Any new age black, Isuzu black, Dodge black, don't touch it. Do not touch it. They're soft, they're sticky, but that's later on. Wool pad is something to be very cautious of, and for a beginner, I wouldn't recommend it. But it is going to give an excellent cut. You've seen people use it, they use it for everything. Will it finish your paint? No. If anything, it's going to look at, in your eyes, it's going to leave your car looking worse than when you started. Moving down the track, there are a few different types, right? Wool pad is generic. It's a heavy cut wool pad, but you can be tricked into the synthetic wool pads. Now, these are a lot softer, can be used in a multitude of like applications, DA, that kind of stuff. Look, I'm not a fan of these, but each to their own. And to be honest, they are not bad. They're a little bit harder to burn and like cause damage because of their soft backing. But to me, look, I'd love to say, yeah, I know everything about these pads, but I don't. They're not my go-to, but they do have a variety of uses. So that's why I'm gonna leave those kind of pads. The next pads I have are and these ones just I have on hand, guys. So, you know, I'll go through these and I'll run through some other brands as well that have cutting pads or feelings, right? So the next one is probably one of my favorite all-rounder pads. The only one above this is an Optics Green, which is a very heavy pad. It's a very stiff pad, but these are very hard to burn, in my opinion, very hard for you to burn your paint. Now they're a purple pad. Don't let the colors, actually no, that's a lie. The colors almost guide you, right? But if you're colorblind, that's okay too. You go by feeling, right? So the softer the pad, the bouncier the pad, the softer the application. So the finer the cut, the better the finish, right? So you wouldn't jump straight to a wool pad, right? Straight to a red pad, right? Granted, a little bit of a spanner in the works. This Geon pad is a cut pad, right? And it's pink. Very close to your other brands will use red for a final finish. So you've got to be very careful at where you know, and go by feel. That's where feel really comes in. At a glance, looks red. At a touch, it feels almost like this one, like the purple. A little bit softer, but for the likes of it, still a cut pad. Now that's all I have, right? Cutting pads, you're gonna know. Like I know, yeah, okay, Ben, that doesn't really tell us much, but pretty much from your yellow up, yellow, greens, purples. Some companies use a black as a cut, others will use black as a finish. But if you're unsure, always Google first, right? Or if you can't be bothered, say you're in a shed with no reception like me, and you don't have the knowledge that I know, or that I have in this big head of mine, go by feel. You know, other detailers might, you know, jump on me for that, but at the end of the day, every detailer is different. I'm not a backyard detailer, and I'm not Fatal Finish, Pro Shine. You know, I'm not God's tier detailer. I'm a detailer that can teach you, everyday guy, girl, the one that's both or whatever, and not the rest. Yeah. But I'm the one that can teach you how to detail and not ruin your paint just by looking at it, because there's a lot of talk about detailing. Every man and his dog does it now. There's a lot of different concepts and procedures and blah, blah, blah. But there's no one that just jumps in and says, you know what? Pick up a buff and have a crack. Because that's all it is. Just don't try on your own on someone else's car. Get some test panels from the tip, get some panel stands, and cut your life ahead, right? Also today, look, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still waiting on a shipment from Optics because WA to Queensland does take a little bit longer, but today, brother, I've always used Menzerna. It's always done me well. It can be a little bit powdery now and again, depending on the pad and depending on the heat I'm chucking into it. But at the end of the day, Menzerna's done me really well. Optics, yeah, okay, I say Optics a lot, but I used to be their detailer, right? So I know a lot about their products. They also make a really good set of compounds, whether it be polish, cut, medium fine, or you know, for your everyday detailer, still excellent products. Doesn't matter where you start, doesn't matter what products you use to start. Just don't buy those piece of shit DA things you can get from super cheap or Repco, the two-handed ones with the trash. 30 bucks with pads. Pfft, pish posh. You're just gonna do yourself a disservice and ruin your life. But now that's concluded, right? I'm gonna set up a little square on this, right, and show you guys, you know, how I work through my initial cut process. All right, bit of tape, bit of wipe. This one's pretty easy, I'm just gonna fix that. Well, that's probably a bit better, but you won't be able to see. Look, you'll see this car's not washed and prepped, right? And a lot of detailers are gonna come at me and be like, oh bro, you didn't decontaminate your paint, you didn't clay bar. Shut the fuck up. The amount of cars that I've corrected, don't worry about it. You know, you do it eventually, yeah, okay, and there are limits to what you do not, you know, where you can't just jump in, right? And also you have to know when it's necessary. For today, for a teaching purpose, I'm not gonna touch a sponge, right? I'll teach you guys how to wash, decontaminate, all that kind of stuff in another episode. Maybe once this is outside or on another car. But for now, I'm not pushing however much this weighs, right, outside for a wash to step you through a decontamination and how to wash a car. 2 bucket method is a lie. Also, don't worry about that, man. Just one for your body, one for your wheels. Don't mix up the two, right? That's your 2 bucket wash, not wash, rinse. Fuck that, man. You get a dust collector in the bottom. That's what it's there for. Wash your pads. You know, have 2 or 3. Just see what I mean? Like, the detailing industry is so over the top now. You know, you see people polishing with your hands, and now I'm just ranting. But honestly, for today, I'm just gonna give it a wipe with a clean microfiber, right? And you'll see I've already taped this off. So, and this is just for instruction. I don't do this on a car that I'm actually paying attention to. But what I am gonna do, and what I am gonna point out, if you're correcting a car with trims, like so, whether it be plastic, steel, aluminium, chrome, it is in your best interest to separate the two with a good quality masking tape. Now you're probably wondering, Ben, why would I bother if I'm just going to polish the whole car anyway, right? The reason, too high. Now the reason you do that is metal is similar to paint, right? It has pores, it oxidizes. Not pores like an animal or a dog, but pores as in pores like your skin, right? And it oxidizes. Those pores attract dirt and corrosion. So if you're cutting this panel and your pad going like mid speed with compound on it, touches your tin, it's going to bring out the dirt in that, and that's where you get that black, those black smudges all through your paint, right? You're also going to bring, now this is going to be a bit, you know, whatever, but you're also going to bring contaminants from the metal into your paint. Keeping in mind, they're very different materials, right? So you don't want that. And the same goes with plastic, right? So if you have plastic, you don't want your compound going on the plastic, because then you got to wash it, or you got to like clean it out, and it's just a bit of a process, right? So just separate everything. Obviously this one, education, that one, actual purpose. But, can I do that? No pad on there. Now for this one, I'm going to jump straight into the wool pad, right? So Yano said that this is only for beginners, right? Or not for beginners, it's more for your intermediates. Yeah, good, don't touch it. But I want you guys to know what these can do in terms of the speed of cut, you know, how they handle on a buff. So there is a few different, I guess, methods with this, but I'm going to teach you how to like prime your pad, how to handle the pad. But first I'm going to clean the pad, and I'll show you how to do that. Now this is probably another thing that normally you have an air brush, like an air tool, and blow it out, but this one also works, right? Works better on a DA because they've got a bearing, so it spins itself, but, and the detailing world's probably going to try and stick a screwdriver up my ass for this one too, but outside of a hot wash, which is a, you know, microfiber cleaning agent, and a brush, getting these dry or getting these ringed free of contaminants, that's going to do it. 90% of the stuff off, and for today it's going to do just fine. It's a bit dusty, so now my car's covered in dust again, but don't worry about it. Now I'm not going to use this same cloth. This is my panel wipe, pre-panel wipe cloth, right? Not my rub compound off cloth. Do not mix up the two, otherwise you're just going to go backwards. Now, I'm running low on this stuff. I'm waiting on my orders to come in, but I got carried away, so here we are. Look, this bit's not hard. Just pretend to look nice, you know? Just 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do a little bit more if you want. Well, beautiful. But it's not hard. That stuff's easy. Priming the pad to get a compound even spread, so you're not working, it spreads itself, and the more you go through the car, the better lubricated your pad is, and you just don't want that dry, you know, you don't want a dry pad, otherwise it's more heat, and that's what this is for. So more lubricant, you know, a bit more lubricant, creates a better work. It also will create a better cut, nicer cut, and the like. Now, when I used to start doing this as a beginner, I used to give the pads a spritz of water. It would keep the pad a little bit cooler. It would help evenly distribute the compound on the pad. But right now, I never squirted water full of water. So it's just a more an FYI. And it's a little bit easier for beginners because the pad doesn't grab as much traction on the bonnet. Now you want to start at a low speed, 1, or the lowest you can go on your machine. All right, now I'm going to get the angle off me because you don't need to see me while I'm working, and I will bring you down to the panel itself. Right, so it's not that hard. Level 1, drape this is not a necessity either, but if you drape the cord over your back, it stops it banging up against the side of the car. Bit of a smear, chuck it on. Now a Rotary is going to want to walk around a bit, you know, like it's going to want to do its own thing. You've got to use 2 hands, not all the time, sometimes you can get away with 1. depending on your own kind of workspace. I give it a little bit of a tilt just to get that little bit more control. And there you've had it. So I'm only going to do this section at a time. I would normally go bigger, but for you guys at home, just a small portion at a time. Working a crisscross method, and I'll go a few times on the low speed, right? Once I've done a few crisscross in the low speed, making sure my work area is thoroughly primed, I won't step it up. I'll go start at 1, and then I'll slowly get up to speed 2, right? Or however you feel comfortable. I'm just going to go for a quick little second application. You can see it gets a little bit thin, right? Polish does cook off and it does kind of run out. So, but for the second time, I'll just go a little bit less. A little bit less on the compound because I'm not going to need a whole lot because it is just the second portion of this cut. Now this stage can go on forever. Like you can chase yourself on days for this, but you don't want to. So I'm just going to cut. I'm going to finish this whole bonnet, this section of the bonnet, and then I'll show you what a rotary does. So keep watching if you want, or just skip ahead. So I'll go one more round of cutting on that, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Back soon, guys. Watch it. Technically it'll be straight away because you already seen me do. I'll be back. All right, and I'm back. Oh, I gotta stop doing that because I don't really go anywhere for you. It's just like but I finished the first, I guess, full cut stage, full rotary wool on the quarter of this bonnet. So I'm going to flip this around and show you obviously the three differences in the panel, right? And from there you'll be like, oh yeah, okay, now I see. So, the screen is a pain. Where am I going? There we go, alrighty. So, as you can see, guys, I'm not sure if you can see this, but if you see, yeah, perfect, that, follow it all the way along. See how the light, oh yes, look at that. So, if you see that on, I'm gonna flip back around because this is hilarious, right? So if you're driving down the highway and you see a black car, red car, blue car, and I'm not sure if you guys see this, but I see it, every other detailer sees it, and it's appalling, right? You see that all over the car. What that means is the paint's been too hot, so it starts to cook and leaves those entrails, or they've used a pad with not enough compound and the pad's then got too hot, so it's leaving hot little entrails. So it's fine. We call them holograms, or I like to call them holograms because they change in different lights. So if you ever see those on your paint, do not stress, right? You haven't wrecked your paint, you haven't, oh no, I've got to respray it, I've cooked it. There's a video on here I watched years ago, and it's how hard and long you have to push on a panel to actually cook the paint. I think this guy stood on there for 7-8 minutes at a moderate speed or moderate to high speed, and then started to cook the panel. So don't stress if you see these, but flip back around so you can see a full comparison. Right, so this is first cut. As you can see, there's still a lot of micro scratches, right? Little ones like this, and then you've got obviously your buffer entrails, and then you come over here to the job I did yesterday. Yeah, I know there are still some scratches in this, right? You see all around here, depending on the angle. So yeah, there you can see them. But one, I haven't refined this yet. This is just heavy cut correction. Two, a lot of these are too deep for me to chase, otherwise I risk damaging my clear, which is for another episode. But as you can see, you get those real common, look, it's like glass, right? And a lot of detailers will be like, oh my God, look at me, bro. I'm such a good detailer, hectic, bah. But you look at it from this angle, brother, that paint's fucked. So keep in mind, if a detailer's doing this a lot and not a lot of this, ask for more of this. And then comparison, we jump to what it was, right? So get rid of that dust. You can see this is probably 10, 15 minutes on a wool pad, fresh, first cut and second cut. So what I'm gonna do now is, you can see the difference that it makes, the whole wool cut, secondary foam cut, which I'm going to do now and show you, and then not cut at all. And you can see how angles can hide poor workmanship. So just be wary, right? And now I know, yeah, I've shown you a cheat, right? If you're a bad detailer, to show your hectic skills of detailing. Don't be that guy, because other detailers know, and then customers realize, and then they stop recommending you because in different angles you haven't done a good job. So the next thing I'm going to go on with here, guys, is getting the angle right on this so you can see what am I talking about. What am I talking about? Right, so wool pad for this, done. Right, I'll come back to that after I've shown you this next bit. The next bit I'm going to go through. Now, this pad is a little bit softer than the purple pad, which is my normal go-to all-rounder. But once again, I normally use that purple pad as a primary cut on, say, a normal passenger car like a Volkswagen, Holden, that kind of thing, right? So that's my own preference. This pad here is a softer pad, but I'm using it with a heavy compound, and I'm using it after I've rotaried with a wool pad. So it's still going to have a dramatic cutting effect, even if it is a little bit on the softer side, right? I'd say that's a heavy cut wool. This would be like a heavy cut foam, extra heavy cut being a wool, and this would be like a medium cut. So it also could be used on a DA as a refinement, but once again, with like a medium or soft compound. But with a heavy compound on a rotary, it's gonna cut better, but it's not gonna generate as much heat. Therefore, it's gonna remove all of my holograms. And a fair few of those other micro scratches developed by the wool. So, once again, I'm gonna change angle here, guys. Right, yep. I'm going to clean this pad, so you have to just excuse me. I'm going to get tangled. Once again, some detailers are probably gonna hate me for that. Oh bro, that's not how you clean a pad. Normally you have like a little brush which you can buy from Amazon, or you can buy from Detail Central, or whatever car care product or whatever. You can buy like a nice little brush, right? But for me, mine's still coming, so I'm gonna just have to wait. But the same principle applies, guys. Prime the pad. Don't go overboard, otherwise you start to spit. You spit compound everywhere, and it's a mess. And if it lands on your plastic, then bakes on your plastic, you're just in a world of hurt. Same principle applies. Low speed, always. Not a firm, but a controlled grasp on the rotary. It doesn't have to be flat. A lot of people will say, yeah, you've got to have it perfectly flat on, but then it does this, right? I like a little bit of tilt, because then also, yeah, it generates a little bit more heat and a little bit more cut, but you get 10 times more control. So let's dive in. Same principle, help if your pad's on. That's the hardest part about detailing, I think, is getting the pad on the disc evenly. But kicking on, same principle applies. Prime. All right, now you can see that that second cut is a little bit of a shorter process. That's because I'm not chasing perfection on this car. All that little secondary cut is for is to remove holograms, so I can kind of see what the paint actually looks like before I refine it, and then do a polish to finish, right? It's not perfect. This car has had years and years of neglect, and to be honest, it's probably one of the worst cars I've ever had to work on. And that's saying something, because I've had some absolute shockers in my time. But I'll spin it around, you'll be able to, oh yeah, Ben, that isn't perfect. Now keeping in mind I do have 2-stage refinement, so a lot of smaller stuff will then come out, and then I have a polish period which will bring out the depth and the clarity of the paint. But for now, in this little how-to, I'm just covering rotaries. So I'll spin you around, have a gander, have a look from where we started to where we're at now, and I'll spin that around like so, and you can see. So yeah, it's not perfect, this one here, as you can see, that one is, oh, where to go? There, so these ones here, deep as shit. Honestly, very, very deep. I might give it another crack with the rotary and come back, but for now, you can see a huge difference. Yeah, like it's not perfect, guys, but that's the process. I'm just pushing you through the process. You can continue to cut that if you've got enough clear. And from where we started, hell, you know? Oh. Oh. All right, guys, that's something a little bit different done today. Look, as you guys know, my videos aren't always perfect, but you know, this is my passion and I enjoy doing it. So it's not, everyone's going to be to a different level. This isn't my detailing studio. You know, I haven't got all the best gear anymore. You know, the lights here are good, which I'll cover off on another episode, but it's not where I would typically detail or correct paint. This car is the worst paint I have ever seen or worked on, and I hope you guys like the transformation. When this is done back on the road, I will do another video of it complete. I will get some proper shots, some rolling shots, blah, 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 and you will start to see me out a little bit more around the Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast area. But for now, boys and girls, and the ones that are both, not the ones that are vegetables, them, zip, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I hope you guys have kind of got something from this. Look, paint, I'm gonna say not for you, I'm gonna say paint refinement, right? Bringing your paint back to life isn't as hard as everyone makes it out to be. There is a finesse to it, and there is an attention to detail to it. But for the basics, but I hate the word buffing, and I hate the word cut and polishing, right? But we're not correcting here. This one is bringing out this dull, oxidized paint back to life via the initial cut of a rotary. So it's just a rotary 101. So yeah, okay, this is a heavy cut, how to heavy cut, but how to rotary confidently. I've taught you guys the basics. Wool cut. Don't use it on a car that you've never touched before. Practice on panels. It's a hot pad with heavy compound. It's a very easy to make things worse but not ruin paint. On new cars, wouldn't recommend it unless it's European. You guys can find out why. European is very hard paint. It is a ceramic enamel or ceramic clear or something along those lines. Very hard. For the people who correct paint, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Go get some scrap panels from the wrecker. Practice on those, because it doesn't matter what you ruin. Don't practice on a customer's car, a mate's car, probably not even your own car. Scrap panels, cheap, doesn't matter as long as the paint's not peeling. You're good. So remember, firm grip, reasonably level, small tilt, start slow, prime the pad. Prime the area, do a few laps. I work in a hashtag, a crisscross pattern. You don't have to, but it's the easiest way. And thanks again, guys. It's a little bit different, I know. If you guys have liked this, I will be doing a direction altering or a DA polishing video as well. That'll more step into the refinement stage of, you know, what we're kind of looking for and then what that stage is achieve. That's where we start to bring in a few more compounds, a few more pads, different speeds, you know. And just to jump in there again, little sidetrack. Never run a buff at full speed. It's fucking dumb. You don't need to. You'll see dealership details. Brrr. Don't do it. That's why they're covered in holograms. The pad gets too hot. And don't get me started on dealership detailers. Unless they're subcontracted. Like, a friend of mine, attention to detail. He does a multitude of ceramic coatings for detailers in Townsville, or dealerships in Townsville. Chef's kiss work. But that's because he has secured the contract from years and years of the hard stuff. But anyone can do this. Oop. Anyone can do this. Just don't go charging for it if you're not a professional. You know, there's too many backyard detailers. But throughout my little series here, you should be a little bit more confident with a rotary. Just don't put it on someone's car you haven't tried before. Don't learn paint, learn how they react, learn this. Learn. Don't just jump into it. Do a bit of research. Find where you stand. Now I'm just rambling because, well, I'm passionate about detailing, and I'm sick of backyard detailers offering $100 paint correction and ceramic coating when a real bottle of ceramic coat, a good branded ceramic coat, would not be less than $120, right? And then you get into the Geons, the quartz, everything like that, right? There you get to $300, $400, $500 for a bottle. So if you're going to a guy and they're charging $100 to $200 to $300 for a ceramic coating car, Brother, don't believe it because they're getting it from Temu. Or Wish, I don't know, one of those cheap $4, it's $4, right? Don't believe them. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this. A little bit of me rambling on, but I'm gonna go finish this car. I'll do a bit of a walk around. If you guys like this, drop a like. Don't forget, I am still doing passion projects. I have just been slow. A few bits of admin. I've really been trying to smash this out so I can then take it to meet people and get in some spare time. So fingers crossed I start to settle down and I get out to the guys that I've been speaking to in my inbox, so I can show you, my viewers, their projects that are my passion and their passion. Passion projects, baby. Thanks again for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, follow, slide in the DMs.